Yeah, man. So here we are back on the journey, but this is where it kind of gets interesting for you and I.
Right.
So I'm working, and the time that we meet, and we get introduced back to my youth pastor, Dave Tarkington. He's now
shout out to Pastor.
Yeah, and he's been the lead pastor at
Orange Park.
Orange Park First Baptist and I don't even know if it's First Baptist anymore. I think it's just Orange Park Baptist Church, maybe. Yeah. Anyways, so he's now the lead pastor there, has been for a long time. But you guys were doing a men's retreat called Battle Ready, which is where you guys meet.
Yeah.
You guys start talking about Luso. You're trying to find you're want to write a screenplay, and
he literally says, "Hey, there's this guy that grew up in my church."
Well, you're like, I need to find a big actor.
Yeah,
they're like, this guy's huge.
This guy's huge. I was like, okay, yeah, I've heard that before.
Right.
He shows me a picture. I'm like, oh, damn.
Right.
Like, damn. Like, he is a big dude. Like,
right.
Wow. Okay. What's his number? Okay, I'll give him a shout.
Yeah. So Dave texts me, and he's like, hey, Brian, or maybe he sends me a Facebook message. Anyways, he reaches out to me. Hey. Is it cool if I give your number to this guy, Travis Bowman? He's, wrote a book about, this famous ancestor, Peter Francisco, and he's looking for an actor to play that character, at least some guidance or whatever. I was like, yeah, absolutely. So you end up on a family. I'm in LA, living in LA at the time. I'm actually working on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is in 2015. You are on a cross-country road trip with your family.
Yeah.
So you hit me up on the way, and you're like, hey, I'm going to be in Los Angeles such and such time. Can we meet up? So we end up meeting at a coffee shop at a Starbucks, actually, which is, one of the affinities, many things that Travis and I share is the love for coffee.
Yes.
So him much more so than I. But anyways, we end up meeting at a Starbucks in Malibu, overlooking Zuma Beach, which is one of the most beautiful beaches in all of Southern California. So we're sitting there, and you start talking about, I think you bring me a book.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you brought me a book. So you brought me a book, and you're telling me about the story, and of course, for me, I'm like, all right, well, this is all cool and all, but like, where are you with it? Like, how far along have you got with it? And you were like, well, not, I'm trying to get it written into a screenplay. I'm trying to build a team, and
I might even share some of the lies of people in Hollywood I've had, producers that have promised me stuff, did nothing. I probably told you some of that journey.
Yeah. So you went through the process of. You actually, a studio optioned it for a year, did nothing with it. You got the rights back. And then I think you kind of vowed at that moment to just like, hey, I'm going to do this on my own, and I'm going to kind of sift through the garbage. So we get in contact. That was 2015. I'm still in Los Angeles. You live in North Carolina.
Right.
Cut to 2016. I met my wife, now wife, and we decide in 2016 that I kind of need a break from LA. She wants to go back to school to become a nurse, so we come back to the East Coast, and we moved to South Carolina, right outside of Charlotte, which is where you live. Right. And I had kind of remember you telling me that, but I didn't really remember you saying that you lived there.
Yeah, because the next year in 2016, I had business out in L.A., and I was like, hey, bro, I'll be back out in L.A. And you're like, yeah, I moved to Charlotte. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, I moved to Charlotte. I'm like, I live in Charlotte.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we get to, so at that point, though, you had a kind of a little team together. You had a producer and a guy on board that was trying to help you raise some funds for it. So then we all get together in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is where I was living at the time.
That's right.
So I got to meet them, and then that's really kind of where our journey started. Like you were.
But I think the real part of your journey was, I was like, bro, if you really want to get into this story, you need to go see one of the Peter Francisco monuments. There's 5 that stand in his honor here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to go check out this one here in North Carolina. So we took a day.
Yes.
And you can probably, I think that picture is out there on social media. So the two of us at the monument in North Carolina.
The Battle of Guilford Courthouse.
Battle of Guilford Courthouse. And I think that was where it began. You're like, whoa, what?
Absolutely.
Who is this guy?
Yeah. And I had read your book, so I was like, wow, this is what I loved about it was this was like this was our Braveheart story.
Right.
Meaning for me, it was like, wow, this is, even though he's not American, this guy was fighting for America. So in my eyes, he was American, but he was Portuguese. But this is a story that's unique, never been told, which in Hollywood, man, is so rare. But what I loved about Peter Francisco was the fact that he's a character that was molded with just unbelievable moral compass, guided by the Lord, a man of integrity, and just like you said, like the ultimate. Just when stuff went down, he was the first one there, and he was going to make sure that he was going to handle it. And so the story resonated with me in so many ways that, yeah, then when we went and saw the monument, I was like, man, this is real. Like, this is really cool.
So then I was like, well, now you got to go see his homeland.
Yeah.
So what we haven't told in the story is that he's not just Portuguese. He's actually from the Azores. Now, a lot of people don't know where the Azores are.
Yeah.
Like, actually, when I first started unraveling the story, I'm like, what Azores? What is that?
Yeah,
like,
I'd never even heard of the Azores.
Yeah, I never heard of it either when I first started unraveling the story. Well, they're like the Hawaiian Islands out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
And most people, they just don't know that. But they're beautiful islands out in the middle of the Atlantic, about 950 miles off the coast of Portugal.
Right.
Kind of smack in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So I've been there several times, and I was like, bro, if you really want to dive into this story, you've got to go see the Azores.
Yes.
So at this time, I already had the Azores Airlines. They were sponsoring the film, the series, and they were, so there. I was like, bro, let's book some flights. They've already taken care of the flights. Let's go.
Yep. Yeah.
We hop flights.
So this is 2018. So cut to 2 years later after this after I moved to Charlotte, 2 years later, middle of 2018. Yeah, we hop on a plane and fly.
So big shout out to Azores Airlines because we've flown with them a bunch of times in first class. They've taken good care of us. Azores Airlines.
Yeah,
been good people.
So we land in Lisbon. We spent a couple days there.
No, we went from Boston because you can get a direct flight
Boston.
right
That's
into,
right.
That's right. Terceira. So the Azores, there's 9 islands, and the biggest island is San Miguel. But Peter Francisco is not from San Miguel; he's from Terceira. Terceira is the 3rd biggest island. And so we actually land in San Miguel first, then do a jump over to Terceira.
Yeah.
And I start unraveling the story for you.
Yeah.
So what was wild is we first land. I have a friend over there who actually reached out to me when I released the book. And he's like, you need to come to the Azores. So the first time I went, Francisco Cardoso. Thank you, Frank. We call him Frank.
Yeah.
But Frank, you the man. So Frank had hooked us all up. He was like, all right, if you're coming, we need to take Brian to this museum. And he needs to hold an authentic 6-foot sword.
Yeah.
So we land. Well, I think we landed. I told him, I'm like, we need some sleep because when you fly through you actually fly through the night and you land and you're like, good Lord, I need some damn coffee.
Yeah, coffee and sleep. Like, we didn't sleep at all.
And I told him, I was like, listen, you cannot book anything for us,
right,
until after we get some sleep. Like, no, I'm going to take you to the museum. I'm like, oh Lord.
Frank was running us all over the damn place.
Oh my God.
And I need some sleep.
Yeah, Daddy.
Yeah, just like Daddy needs some sleep, bro. So Frank is like, no, we're gonna.
This guy with no sleep.
We're gonna go. No sleep, no food. Bad combination for B-Wade. So
I think initially Frank was like, let me show you where I was born.
No, that was the last place. So we go to the museum, which was awesome because I was super excited to see this sword, and they got to. The actual, like the curator of the museum, like led us back there. They made me put on gloves, but I actually got to pull the sword out of its like enclosure, hold it, swing it, like actually feel this real authentic 6-foot broadsword, and which was epic. So we get done with that, and then did we go see his birth record right after that?
Well, before that. So there was actually what I didn't realize that our buddy Frank had brought in the media. So the
media was there.
Newspaper was there. I just thought it was a lady taking pictures.
Me too. No idea.
She's taking pictures. Well, Brian ends up on the front page of the newspaper the next morning.
The next day.
Swinging a sword. They're all across the islands.
Yes.
That was crazy.
I was on the front page. Is it the Terceira paper, right? Their main paper.
Yeah.
So I end up on the front page, which was wild. Yeah. So we get done with a few stops. Let's just call it a few stops, whatever they were. So Frank's kind of leading us. So mind you, we've had no sleep, flying through the night. Yeah. Frank is leading us all over the island, and I'm like, oh man, I am fading fast. So Frank is like,
he's driving one car in front of us.
Yeah, he's in front of us, and he says, hey, I'm going to take you and show you where I grew up, my childhood home. And I was like, I looked at Travis. I said, hell no.
Hell no.
Nah.
And I was like,
Frank,
we love you,
Frank,
bro.
but we out, bro.
I don't give a rat's ass.
Give a rat's ass, Frank, where you grew up. I'm tired. So we bounced. Yeah. So we ended up
not enough coffee that would keep us up at that point.
Anyways, thank you, Frank, for all the help that you have
Frank,
been,
you've been
for
amazing.
sure.
We love you.
So so we spent the whole like a week there. We did the running of the bulls with
now the running with the bulls. People don't know about that.
Yeah.
So
which is different from the running the bulls in Spain.
In Spain, that's right.
Yeah.
So the story behind the scenes on that is on the island of Terceira, in particular the island of Terceira. The Spanish in the 1500s had come in to they were trying to take over the island and conquer the Azores, in particular in Terceira Island. Well, the women of the town, they chased the soldiers off the island with their bulls.
Right.
So today, hundreds of years later, still to this day, they celebrate that by having a bull run through the streets, and they have, I forget what they're called now. They'll have 5 guys holding a rope.
A big rope that's wrapped around the bull's neck
and the guys
to kind
are
of control
with
it.
And so it's a very festive thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a baseball game in America.
Yeah.
It's like you got people selling, candy. Hey, bye-bye.
Yeah. But even though it is one bull, it's still scary as heck because everyone's out in the street, the main street where this bull's running, and it's not like the guys are holding the bull back the whole time. It's this massive, couple 100-foot long rope. So they'll let it loose, so the bull can do whatever he wants. So
when it's on a street with houses,
right? So he's charging at people. People are diving over walls, and
it's crazy. He's video. It's crazy. Go look it up on YouTube.
Yeah,
man.
He's mauling some people.
It's smashed into people's homes. And just smashed their living.
So I remember we're running late, and the running of the bulls is about to start, and our friend Maria Juan, whose house is where we were going to go to.
Maria Juan.
We were going to go to watch the running of the bulls because her house is right on the main strip there. Yeah. She's calling Travis. She's like, "You guys got to get here. The bull's loose. The bull is loose." And I'm just, I got my camera out. I'm like, "Oh yeah," FaceTiming or like I'm like Instagramming. This is awesome.
The bull's like right behind you.
And the bull's like down. I'm like. So I gotta like take off to get inside the enclosure.
You just didn't realize what was going on because
I had no idea.
There's a bull loose. Whatever.
There's one bull.
Wait, I can take that thing on.
And then you see how big this thing is and how quick they are. You're like, crazy. Yeah, I'm glad I got out of there.
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah.
I think I was like, bro, you need to come. So I was already behind this gate.
Yeah.
And you're like, la 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 la.
Yeah, I'm just strolling.
Strolling. And then I was like, bro, you didn't get that crap. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You get behind the gate, and I think within 30 seconds that bull comes running by. Yeah. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Just massive.
Massive bull. And we weave that into the story of with our whole series on Luso and bringing Peter.
So of course the running the bulls will be in there because there's a epic moment between him and young Pedro. Which you guys will all see. But anyways, taking that trip over to the Azores was really a pivotal moment in our journey, just from the aspect of, wow, this is – because everyone in Portugal, especially the older generations, they know Peter Francisco. Yeah. And it's kind of, like I said, it's their version of Rocky. It's this mythical character who's actually real and did some really wonderful things. And it's actually a way that kind of unites the U.S. and Portugal, right? It's a huge thread of commonality between the two countries. So going over there and seeing all that and talking about Peter Francisco with actual Portuguese people specifically on his home island was really an eye-opening experience, just how important this character is and how important the story is to be told.
And people always say, well, how do you know he was from the Azores? Because the real story is he's kidnapped by pirates at the age of 5 years old, dropped off in Virginia, becomes legendary on the battlefields of the American Revolution. Well, how do you know he's from the Azores? Right. Well, there in the Azores, of course, I take Brian to see the birth record, as they call it. It was really the priest's record of here's where he was baptized.
Right.
So
that church, which is cool.
So in Porto Judeo, where he was born, he's baptized by a priest, and that priest records it back in 1760. And so that record is there even today in a museum in Angra. It's actually the library or museum of where they have the records. So take Brian to see that. In the church, there's a big, huge plaque that's been there for 40 years, since the 80s, long before I was telling the story, that says the giant of the American Revolution was baptized here in this church. You know?
Yeah.
And
so cool, man.
So it was just wild. I think for you, again, that the unraveling of it was like,
oh yeah.
What journey am I on?
Right, and getting to see that this kid from the island of Terceira in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean ends up becoming this mountain of a man that ends up helping the U.S. win their freedom as a slave, and then as obviously an infantryman is man, just such a wonderful story. And that's really where I was like, wow, I got to be a part of this in as much way as I can. So, yeah.
So then I was like, all right, we were in the Azores, had an epic time there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Fans would meet him in the street. There were people asking for autographs in the streets.
Paper, yeah.
There were, like you said, the one guy knew you from Teen Wolf. Somebody else knew you from Big Bang. Somebody else was like, man, you got fans in the middle of the damn Atlantic Ocean. What are they, a blue whale's going to want your signature out here? Like,
I know.
This is crazy.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. But then from there, I was like, bro, you got to see another island, another Portuguese island that is famous, actually famous even to the American Revolution.
Right, Madeira.
So stick around and we'll take you to that journey. Next episode.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out Luso The Journey. If you are interested in more of the journey, consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, you want to check out the entire Luso The Journey playlist as we unpack more of our journey and we talk to some amazing people who've joined us along the way.